Hello, everyone. This is Brother Timothy Earl Hoskins from the Lord's House of Prayer in Jackson, Tennessee, coming to you again on another wonderful Sabbath. A little bit cool. It's cool today, but it's good. It's great. The sun's shining, and it's a great day. As every day is, especially when you get to be in service to the Lord. I thank you for your comments, views, prayers. I ask that you continually pray for me, and I will continually pray for you. Also, I ask you pray for our country, our leaders, and our government, and our churches, the nation of Israel. And I listened to a guy when I was younger named Brother Stair, and he always said, "Keep your eyes on Jerusalem." So we need to pay attention to what's happening with Israel and Jerusalem and in that area, because it's very important. Also, continually pray for our newly elected president and the cabinet he's putting together and what he wants to do for this country. So God's people prayed and God's people voted, and we got a change in government, and we'll see what he can do. He deserves a fair chance. We've had 8 years of a bunch of confusion. Maybe he can at least get us partially on the right track. What I want to talk about today, I entitled this "Love God and Love Your Neighbor." And I'm going to get into what Christ said when he was asked a question about the greatest commandment, which one is the greatest commandment, and all this. And then I want to get into how do you love God and how do you love your neighbor. And it's very interesting, and a lot of people, want to do away with the Old Testament completely, and say that like maybe even the Ten Commandments are not important anymore. And then they point to these verses here that Christ said himself when he was asked a question, and he named 2 commandments is all. But you got to look a little deeper into that and go, how do you do that? So I'm going to try to tie all that in. I'm going to read in Mark chapter 12, and I'm going to read verses 28 through 31. And one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all? He's asking Christ this. And Jesus answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. So he basically says, he's giving them, there's 2. There's none greater than these 2. And he says, love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Anyway, going into Matthew chapter 22, I'm going to read verses 36 through 40. Again, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. And I've heard people, talk about that's all there is these 2 commandments now. And, Christ said, on these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. And you go back where Christ said he didn't come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So he's told us that the first commandment is to love the Lord our God with all our mind, our heart, our soul, and our strength, and our body. And the second commandment, like unto the first, is to love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay, so now you go, how do you love God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul and all your strength and all your body? It goes right back to the Ten Commandments. And I'm going to read in Exodus chapter 20. Uh, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 12. And this right here is how you love God with all your mind and all your heart and all your strength and all your soul and all your mind and body. And it's actually the first 5 commandments of the 10 commandments. Again, Exodus chapter 20, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 12. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the 3rd and 4th generations of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. That's the first 5 commandments. That's how you love God with all your mind, all your body, all your soul, all your strength. That's how you love God, by keeping the first 5 commandments. Now, how do you love the neighbor as yourself? Well, it's the next 5 commandments. And these are in Exodus chapter 20, 13 through 17. How do you love your neighbor as you love yourself? And you hear people, you talk about treating people the way you want to be treated. Well, it's right here in the last 5 commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. So, Christ boiled down all 10 commandments into two primary commandments. Love God with all your mind, body, heart, soul, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. How do you do those? You follow the 10 commandments. If you follow those, then you fulfill the 2 commandments that he put forth when he was asked that question. I don't really believe that the Old Testament has been completely done away with, because there's too many prophecies in books like Jeremiah and Isaiah and Ezekiel and Daniel and some of the lesser prophets that still have to be fulfilled. So, but without the Old Testament, there would be no New Testament. It's the foundation for everything. When Christ was talking, he said, as it is written. He would always say that, as it is written, and he would go back to the Old Testament and talk about what was written in the Old Testament. It is the foundation for the New Testament. So they both go hand in hand. And if you let's read what Christ had to say you see what has been changed and what has not. So to fulfill the commandments that Christ laid out, the two commandments that he said are the greatest, or you have to fulfill the 10 commandments. The first 5 fulfill love God with all your body and your heart and your mind. And the second 5 fulfill love thy neighbor as yourself. And I encourage you to study this and read this and pray and allow God to put you in the right direction. And he will. And he will. And he'll put the right people in your life that you need to keep you on the right path. Again, I ask that you continually pray for me as I continually pray for you. Pray for our country. Pray for our leaders. Pray for the nation of Israel. I thank you for your views and your comments. And any questions that you have, please get in touch with me. I would be glad to have a conversation with anyone about whatever they would like. Again, my name is Brother Timothy Earl Hoskins. This is the Lord's House of Prayer in Jackson, Tennessee. Thank you and God bless.